Part One-on-One with Mr.Burgher.
Welcome to Art One-on-One. I am your pod boss, Nichole Jordan, alongside America's favorite art teacher, professional artist, and master educator, Mr. Burgher.
Man, that's a mouthful of words.
Pretty soon, I'm gonna have like the world's longest introduction.
Well, I mean,
just for all your titles.
It is what it is. We, you gotta add your certain things that you have to.
Well, maybe I should add on to mine.
Yeah, pod boss, bossy, organizer of things.
All things. Master multitasker.
Master of multitasking. That is true.
I am.
You are really good at.
I can get
doing lots
more
of
shit
things.
done, and
you're good at transitioning from one thing to another. Sometimes I struggle with that, like just being able to, go from one thing to another. But anyway, what do you have on the show for today?
Goodness sakes! Well, I guess we can start with our regular segment, Ask the Art Guides.
Yes, our longest standing thing. We got to be close to the end of the cards that we've shuffled through once. Yes.
Well, I don't know how many cards are in here, but yeah, I think we have
50.
like maybe 10 or 12 left.
I think there were like 50 some cards, 60 cards, 50 cards.
How long ago did we start this podcast?
I don't know.
How many episodes we've done?
It would have been. I don't know. I'm
glad it's so important to you.
I know there's a number. I just don't know it off the top of my head. I didn't know I was going to be quizzed on the number of podcasts I've had.
Usually you know details like that.
My
honestly.
brain is geared towards answering your questions about art and art content and art-related things right now, not the number of podcasts I've done. I'm thinking about other things beyond myself. Try that for a change.
All right, well, I pulled Salvador Dalí.
Salvador Dalí, the Spanish surrealist master of things. I'm actually planning on doing, because we talked about this at the beginning of the year, doing more art-focused, like art groups, like surrealism and pop art and things like this. And so I'm planning on doing a surrealism video just on what surrealism is. It's not done.
Clearly.
But I'm planning it.
Have you started it?
I'm collecting data. Okay. I'm collecting information right now.
That's really
research takes a while. These things don't just happen. Anyway.
You're so amazing.
There's a life. There are three things that are on the three words.
What are those things?
Life, works, and
inspiration.
Inspiration. Which one would you like to be inspired by today?
This is a tough one because there's two that I like. Maybe I'll give you the two, and then you can decide. The works is tap the unconscious and pray it isn't boring, which of course I love talking about the unconscious. So
subconscious.
That one, not subconscious. What's unconscious.
What's the difference between being unconscious and your subconscious?
I don't know what the difference is.
Is your subconscious like when you're awake and it's like deep in your brain, and unconscious is when you're asleep and you're clearly unconscious?
I don't know. That would be interesting too.
I don't know. I figured you'd know since you're a brain scientist and all.
Yeah. Okay, so that's one option. Okay. Or being Dalí is inspiration enough.
Ooh. Being Dalí is inspiration enough, which is very much a Dalí statement.
Yeah.
A very Dalí-esque idea.
What do you think we could have the best conversation around?
Why not never make an appearance without a controversy?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they're all good, but why do you like that one?
I don't know. I'm just asking why not that.
I just like the bottom two. I think I like the last one a lot just because, I'm not well versed on the artists and art, but I do know that he was a pretty cocky person.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't. He was very much a self-promoter.
Well, okay. So that's not. What would you call that then?
I mean, he was. I mean, I wouldn't say he was cocky. It wasn't like he was like he knew.
Confident?
I think he was. There were certain degrees of confidence within himself, but I wouldn't necessarily say he was an overly confident person. I think he was very unconfident with most things, and he just tried to put on a persona of confidence.
Which a lot of people did that.
I think it was more of a like a characteristic where he was like overcompensating for his, I don't know, that he felt like he wasn't something, and so he was overcompensating for, I don't know. But
do you think in that sector or like art that you almost have to be that in order to succeed?
yeah, I think in order for you to put yourself out there artistically, and generally speaking, when artists start doing their work, they're doing it themselves. You look at an artist like Andy Warhol. Andy Warhol eventually developed this huge group of artists that were working with him in what he called his factory. Because it wasn't just him, he had this whole team of artists around him making work. It was his idea, but he had lots of other people making it. But in the very beginning, it was him by himself making the work, and so it's very personal. It's very much, your own idea. You don't start with a team. I don't know that Dalí ever had a team of artists that he was employing to. I think he was just a self-made person, and he did all kinds of weird tactics to generate income and art and all of the things. But anyway, I think that because of that, because it's very personal, and because you have
to self-promote within that world a lot of times.
So it's just like, look at me. This is my stuff. This is all on me, and this is my vision, and you can't compromise your vision for anybody else's vision. No, it's my way. And I think that artists of many stripes fall into that. Whether you're talking about musicians that like, this is the vision for the music, and when musicians in a band have very different visions of where it should go, well, it's time to separate and go our own separate ways. And actors, actresses, musicians, all kinds of forms of art and artists do this, and so I don't think it's unique to the visual art. I don't think it's exclusive to the visual arts, but it's certainly a part of it.
I mean, now that you talk about the top one, never make an appearance without controversy. You say he wasn't cocky, but to me, that's making a statement that says he is. Well, like, what is he talking about? What's an example of that he did within his own art?
For example, there was one time he was set to give a lecture. He showed up in a scuba suit and almost suffocated to death because I don't know, there was something with the scuba suit, and he was locked inside of it, and he about suffocated inside of the scuba suit.
Well, that's not That's not like controversy. That's stupidity.
But he's by making this big appearance, by doing this thing, he would show up like there's a clip of him showing up on the Jack Parr. Jack Parr was like a late night talk show host. He came onto his show as a guest, and he came on with an anteater. Why?
Dalí did?
Yeah. Salvador, he came on with an anteater on a leash. Why? Well, because why not? He liked the anteater. He saw it at the zoo. He asked him if he could borrow it for the day. I mean,
but that's also what puts you like not out there, but like if you do something crazy or drastic, obviously that's going to call attention to you, and so a lot of artists I think have to do that to get your interest in the door and do crazy shit to make.
I think that sometimes it's also one-upsmanship. So it's like, well, this person came on with an anteater, so I'm going to come on with the next thing and another thing until it escalates to, something that's either completely ridiculous or dangerous or stupid, all for the sake of getting your name out there.
Have you ever done anything like that to get your name out there?
No. Otherwise, my name would be out there.
Otherwise, you would be America's favorite artist instead of America's favorite art teacher.
Right.
Would you? I can't see you doing something crazy to...
I mean, there are times that I've done crazy things. But I'm usually pretty... I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe that's what you got to do.
Maybe that's what I should do. Start showing up with anteaters and
maybe at your next art show here coming up.
Yeah, I've got an art show coming up in July. There'll be some stuff that all the details will come out. But in July,
cliffhanger.
Yeah, cliffhanger. In July, I'll show up and I'll give more information. Put it out there. But
are you gonna go like live from there, or just do a video from there, or what? What are you thinking?
I don't know. See, maybe they'll let us do part of the podcast there.
There you go.
I don't know. I don't know if they'll let you do. I don't know. I haven't asked them.
Well, more to come on that.
So who knows?
All
anyway, right. So I think that all of those things are good. I think that one of the things about Salvador Dalí, just in and of himself, was that when I was in high school, I loved Salvador Dalí. He was probably one of my first favorites. I remember the day that Salvador Dalí died. It was 1989. I remember it like it was 20 years ago. And anyway, so Salvador Dalí, like just the weird things that he did and the things that he brought to the table and his weird way of putting things together, I just loved it.
And I'm so the opposite.
And I really enjoyed how he worked. And then I got to college, and my college professors were like, Salvador Dalí is trash. Don't like Salvador Dalí. And, the art professors there, the art historical people, trying to persuade your vision and your mind. And as I got to college and I started to read about some of the things that Salvador Dalí did that were a little bit less, they were more...
what do you mean? Like how he became an artist, or his art not being art?
Like he had his persistence of memory was the big painting that he did, which is actually a very small painting. But with that small painting, he got very, very famous. And he really never did anything beyond that. And he painted that in like 1930. And so from 1930 to 1989, all he did was self-promote. He didn't really do anything. Yeah, I mean, he did, but their perspective was all he did was the same thing over and over again, and he was just a big self-promoter. He was
Yeah, but I mean, if that's what you're good at, and that's what makes you, to me, that's success. Like, he only created a certain amount of art, and then that was his...
But the thing is, like, he was making art all of the time.
But nothing else was as good.
It wasn't as captivating. It wasn't as publicly popular. It wasn't whatever that they thought it should be. He got into trouble he got into making prints. I actually own a Salvador Dalí print. But he got into trouble because he would take blank pieces of paper and just sign his name on it. And then he would sell the pieces of paper. And then you could put whatever you wanted on it.
Okay, if that's not cocky, I don't know what is.
I don't know. I think that it's just like unethical. I don't think that's cocky.
Why? I would pay if I could go up to Snoop Dogg and just have him write his name on a piece of paper. I'd buy that damn thing in a heartbeat.
Yeah, but
smart.
But the thing is, Snoop Dogg makes music. It would be like,
I would do it with an artist if I liked art the way you liked art.
But the difference is Snoop Dogg's art is his music, where Salvador Dalí's art was on a piece of paper.
Okay,
so he was
if he sang a sentence, I'd buy that.
But you're not seeing the forest through the trees here.
Okay.
He's selling the pieces of paper, and as an artist, you can put anything on the piece of paper that you want. And so you could go off and paint whatever the hell you wanted on that piece of paper and say, this is a Salvador Dalí painting. And so he got into a lot of trouble, and people got into trouble for fraud because he was just selling blank pieces of paper.
With the intention to have them put art on there of their own.
Yes. But
Seems...
Yes. I mean, you could basically...
Is that your perception, or that... Did he say that was...
I don't know that he ever really came out and said that's why he did what he did, but that's what he did. And I think any logical person can put 1 and 1 together and come up with 5. So...
I don't know. I mean, I would just take an autograph from somebody and... But
he wasn't just signing an autograph book. He was signing a blank piece of paper with his name in the corner, like, so you could...
Yeah, but how many times have my kids went to a football game and just grabbed whatever they could to get a signature on there?
It's completely different. You know, Joe Namath signing a football is way the hell different than an artist signing the corner of a blank piece of paper that somebody could put a piece of artwork on.
Did he let people bring, like, his art in and sign it?
No, not that I know. But anyway, Salvador Dalí, and so I kind of fell out of, I mean, I never fell out of favor with Salvador Dalí. I've always appreciated Salvador Dalí.
Okay, being an art teacher, isn't that wrong to tell your students who to like and not to like a person? Because, I mean, it should be subjective. It should be, I mean, there's the guy that just sold white paper or whatever or painted white on white paper, and he was, considered an artist. And
he was garbage.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying.
The thing is,
do you say that to your students? Like, he's not very good. Like,
yeah, for sure, I do. Like, in terms of Robert Ryman, it's no. Okay, I don't like Robert Ryman. I don't appreciate his work. I don't like his work. I don't like what he did. I don't like his vision. I don't like anything about it. I don't like his background. I don't like his education. I don't like where he's coming from. I don't like his motives. I think he's a con, and on and on and on. What I tell the students is, my job is, if they walk into an art museum, what are they going to see? And these are the types of things they're going to see. And it's my job to say, expose them to those things. Mm-hmm. And I tell them, at the end of the day, they can come up with their own conclusions. Some art is better than other art in my eye. Some art is going to be better in your eye. We all know, and we just had this conversation, we're in the midst of March Madness. And in my art class, we do a thing called Art Madness, yes, where I make a bracket of 64 different either pieces of artwork, architecture, specific artists, so forth, where they look at these art groups or whatever. We look at the Guerrilla Girls, we look at Salvador Dalí, we look at Georgia O'Keeffe, we look at the Pantheon, we look at all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And the students examine these things, and we decide, okay, they get to vote. What do you like this or do you like that? And it's all like their perception. And I tell them, you can, whatever the way you want to look at it is the right way. If you say, I like that, I like this artist because I like their bright, bold colors, then that's what you use. If you, whatever calls to you to like, is acceptable.
Do you do this with all grades? I absolutely love that you do this for so many reasons. Just because you're, like, I think it's fun and it gets the kids into, like, really researching the art or the artist and, like, what they like about them. Like you said, being subjective and what they like about them. But it also just encourages them to learn learn art. Like when I walked into your classroom and you had your first graders in there and you had one of those up and they were able to, it so surprised me, like their answers as to why they liked the art.
Right.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, and I think that it's one of those things where a lot of times, you know, the conversation leading up to that is, okay, how many of you like something? How many of you know what you like? And they all raise their hands. And one of the kids said on one particular day, I like ice cream. Oh, okay. We can all agree that who in here likes ice cream? The kids, I like ice cream. They all like ice cream. Okay? Unless they're lactose intolerant or allergic to dairy, in which they're like, I hate ice cream because it makes me poop. Okay, I understand. So you don't like it, but other people like it. We all like something. And we can talk about animals, we can talk about ice cream or whatever. But sticking to the ice cream analogy. Okay, how many of you like vanilla? Oh, how many of you like chocolate? Oh, how many of you like something else? I like Rocky Road. I like this, that, and the other. And they all come up with a different thing. Mm-hmm. As to what they like. And the thing is, they know what they like.
Right.
But why? Why do we like what we like? Well, some of them like fruit, so they like more of a sherbet, whatever they call it. Some of them like chocolate, so they like a Rocky Road, or they like a Mississippi Mud, or they like a this or that or the other. Some of them like just vanilla. They just want plain vanilla. They just like that. It's all good. It's all ice cream. They all have their opinion. Mm-hmm. And so my thing is, know what you like, but be able to communicate it. You know what? I don't like a lot of nuts and this stuff. I don't like chunky things in my ice cream, so this is why. And the same is true in art. I like bright, bold colors, and so I'm going to be drawn to those things with bright, bold colors, and the things with kind of drab pastels or whatever, I'm not going to like that as much because I don't like those kinds of colors. So if I have a choice between Grant Wood and Keith Haring, which is an actual vote that the kids had last week, well, some kids that like the bright, bold colors are going to vote for Keith Haring, and the kids that like the more realistic looking tones, they're going to like Grant Wood. And the truth is somewhere in the middle. Liking one or liking the other, it's not right or wrong. It's just your own preference. And I want to know, what do we collectively like more? And those are the things that move on. Oh, okay, well, that doesn't mean that everybody gets what they want. But at the end of the day, we're going to see who goes further. And again, it's no different than the basketball teams. You know, sometimes the kids are like, I want Pompey to win. There's one particular young man in my high school that's like, I want Pompey to win, because they put together a whole bracket. Right. And he had Pompey going to the championship. Mm-hmm. And next week we do that. And I will be putting out a video somewhere where I'm going to be talking about all of the ins and the outs of this particular project and how the kids voted, and so that will come out soon. But anyway, that is a fun project, and I do think it's important for kids not just to say I like it or I don't like it, but to explain why. Do I like the colors? Do I like the shapes? Do I like the textures? Do I like the values? Do I like the, what is it? All kinds of things being talked about and learned about in the old Mr.Burgher art class.
Well, you brought up the Guerrilla Girls, and I did want to bring up, because your Guerrilla Girls video launched here a few days ago, and I just think that's a really good video. So just having people aware that that's out there, and I don't know, I just love their passion behind what they're doing, and fighting for inclusion and different things, and I don't know, that video was really good. So
Well, and I think that with the Guerrilla Girls, they're kind of a unique group, and we're also doing a project in one of my high school classes around the Guerrilla Girls, where they've done research on like what the Guerrilla Girls have done for inclusion. And again, it's super slow. I mean, they've been around for 30 years, and they've just, have they made a difference? Absolutely. But the difference is like one click. You're not going to go from, and I tell this to kids often, the goal isn't to go from 5 to 10. The goal is to go from 5 to 5 and a quarter. From 5 to 5 and a half. We don't even need to get to 6. Don't worry about 6. Let's just incrementally grow. Let's incrementally get a little bit better. Let's nudge in the right direction. And that makes a difference, because then with little steps, we make steps in the right direction, and that little change can sometimes grow and grow and grow into something bigger and stronger. And sometimes it just takes slow motion to make things happen. But
I disagree with you about the goal thing. Like, I feel like you set the goal for the 10, and then you focus on the little steps and recognize, celebrate, reward those along the way. But
right.
You have this is where I want to get, but here's
right.
I have to take these little action steps, and it's not gonna look like in the beginning that it creates much change, but then slowly you look back and you're like, holy shit, like, oh my god, like all these things have added up, and I'm almost at the 10 now. But I think you still need to set
but I think that sometimes, like for example, what the Guerrilla Girls want to accomplish, they want to have equal inclusion of women and minorities in art museums. That's a great goal. That's what it should be. That's what those spaces should be. That's 100% the right approach. But if you don't get equal representation from all groups within a year, well, then it's like defeating. It's like, well, golly, we didn't reach our goal. I think you've got to think about it, in my view anyway, like that's the end goal. Like that's the perfect outcome. But how do we get to that perfect outcome? It's a lot of small goals. It's a lot of small steps. It's a lot, every year getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And, the Guerrilla Girls have kind of come in and they've gone out. They've kind of come in and they go out. And they were huge in the 80s. Where were they in the 90s? They were lower key. Where were they in the 2000s? And now they're starting to kind of, the past 5 or so years, they've started to swing back a little bit. They're much bigger in Europe than they are in the United States. But again, they're also up against billionaires. They're up against
right.
the corporate machines that put art into art galleries and art spaces and say, because they're collecting this artist, we're going to promote this artist and we're going to make this artist come out. If
it's kind of like the Caitlin Clark thing right now, to be honest with you.
How so?
Well, you're saying like, they want to support the Guerrilla Girls, but like these paintings and these people are the ones that bring in the money. So we can only do so much of, well, it's the same thing with women's basketball up to this point. Like it just hasn't brought in very much money. And so there's not like the WNBA doesn't get paid very much and da. But now all of a sudden, as we were having this conversation last night,
right,
they're contemplating having Caitlin Clark be in the
Big Three.
Yeah.
Well, and with Ice Cube and his, I mean, it's only been around for like 7 years or so, I believe. 7 years, 7 years. The Big Three, and for those of you that don't know, the Big Three is a basketball league that's a 3-on-3 basketball league where it's retired NBA players, men's basketball players, and for the first time they're bringing they've offered to bring Caitlin Clark, who's still in college, into this as she simultaneously goes into the WNBA. And in the WNBA, I think she's going to make like, I don't know,
75,000 or something like that, isn't it?
So, I don't know.
I saw a post on it the other day, and
was it 75,000?
So,
but I know that the big three has offered her $5 million.
I could be completely off.
So, and I know that there was a big gap between the two, but there again, like you said, I mean, once you get to a point where, okay, financially it makes sense to bring her in because, number one, she can play. Number two, people will pay to see her play. And she's proven that people will. I mean, she can sell out arenas that people want to watch her play. And the same is, the analogy is also true for the art. You know, there are artists that people will pay to go see. People will go to see the Van Gogh exhibit. But unless you show people what that is,
not to like jump around on topics, but what do you think? This is where I struggle with like whether Caitlin Clark should do this. Like, what do you think the purpose of them offering that to her, that experience to her? Is it because they want to bring money to that specific 3-on-3?
Hell yeah.
Then if it was her, like, how do you, like, to me that's like, you want to use my popularity to now all of a sudden pay women more and whatever, or
I don't think that it's, honestly, I don't think it's at all about wanting to pay women more. That's not why they're bringing her in.
No, what? Okay, yes, that's what I'm saying. So the reason that why they're bringing her in is for selfish reasons. They want more money into that 3-on-3, more exposure.
Well, they're going to get into that league. If they bring her in, what are they going to get? Well, they're going to sell more merchandise. They're going to sell more tickets. They're going to get bigger venues. They're going to sell out their venues. It's going to bring more exposure to the league. There are all kinds of things that are going to come because of bringing her in. She knows, I'm sure, she's got people around her that are a hell of a lot smarter than you and I about these sorts of things. They know, okay, well, they're compensating you $5 million because they know they're going to make $20 million on all the other shit they're going to do. They're going to sell your jersey. They're going to sell your bobblehead. They're going to put you on a whatever. They're going to use you in advertising.
Right.
They're going to use your likeness. They're going to do all of those things to promote their product. And
so why would she do it? To me, that, and I haven't really thought this through, just talking through this conversation is what made me think of it, but like if that's going to benefit women and benefit women's athletics and whatever, then I'd be like, hell yeah, like do it, because like the Guerrilla Girls, it's gonna turn the dial a little bit to where it's a good thing for women. But to me, it's almost like the opposite of that. Like,
what do you mean it's almost the opposite of that? That
meaning,
doesn't make sense to me.
She's doing it to promote. It's not going to bring the notch up on getting women to get paid more or the WNBA to be more popular. Or so why do it? Well,
I think that she would definitely have the power to do that. I think that she could probably negotiate with the big three or whoever and say, look, I don't want to be the only female, but if you guarantee that you're going to put at least a female on every team, then I'll do it.
Well, but then you're kind of defeating the purpose of her being able to play with men if she's just going to have another female on each team so she can play.
But see, the way I see it, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth.
I'm trying.
Because
I'm not saying I'm not.
Because what you're saying is, well, if she's going to do it, she should do it to improve all women. But if she does it to improve all women, then she's selling herself short that she can play with men.
Not really, because if she's playing against men and guarding the men and versus bringing another woman in, and I get what you're saying as far as talking out of both sides, but well, I don't know.
I think that if you're a proven, like with this, if you're a proven player, then you can play. I mean, clearly, shooting a 3 is, like we've talked about before, there are certain things that just don't have a gender. They just don't.
Yeah.
Making art is not man or woman. You know, your art should not be feminine just because you're a woman. And art is not necessarily masculine just because you're a man. Your art is what it is. And it should not be labeled masculine or feminine because the artist that created it was masculine or feminine. The art can be masculine and being created by a woman.
Right.
Just like shooting a 3-pointer isn't masculine or feminine. It just is. There's a technique, boom, and whether it's masculine or feminine, she knows how to do it. She has the muscle memory to make that happen. Just like I have the muscle memory to draw things. And I think that one of the things that she brings to the table is for what she's doing is she can play. And regardless of if it's a men's league or a women's league, you know, whether you're talking about the Big Three or the WNBA or the NBA, players that bring in money, players that are proven, players that can play get more money than those that can't.
Right.
The guy that's at the end of the bench, that's the last string guy coming in at the end of the game, is not going to get the same opportunities as the starting center. It just isn't. You know, there's a reason that some no-namer in the Chicago Bulls doesn't get the same recognition as Michael Jordan. Were they on the same team? Sure. Does he have the one guy have a shoe line, the other guy doesn't? Sure. He's got endorsements and can they both play? A hell of a lot better than anybody else I know. I'm sure they're hell of basketball players. But does that mean they're equal? No. And you're going to give the money to the guy that's proven. The guy that knows how to play and perform.
Well, and
sometimes that's name recognition, you know.
Bringing it back to the Guerrilla Girls, that's where I was saying that, like, from one perspective, I get it because certain pieces and certain artists are going to bring in the money, right? But so you have to have a balance because obviously you're paying bills and whatever, but they've continued to do small things from the last, how many years? When did you say they evolved?
The 85 is when they formed.
But do you think that they've gotten to their end goal?
No.
Yeah.
If they got to their end goal, they wouldn't need to be around, number one.
That's not true.
It is true.
You just create a new goal.
Well, okay, but I'm just saying, like, if they reached their goal, they wouldn't need to continue. They wouldn't need to keep doing what they're doing if they had accomplished their goal, number one. Number two, go to any art museum or art gallery or art space or art collection, and you're going to see a disparity of women and men, whites to minorities.
So why do you think that is? Because, like, we're talking about women's athletics, and I get women's athletics, like, women are built differently than men, and women can men can, like, jump higher for the rebounds and usually are faster, things like that. So I get the difference and why that continues to maybe have the discrepancy, but why in art is it still? I mean, because there's got to be just as many women and minorities that have these amazing pieces of art.
Absolutely.
So why does it still continue to be such an issue then, in your opinion?
I think that, again, you're skirting around the idea. Okay, you have a proven artist. You take Vincent van Gogh. Years and years and years and years. Vincent van Gogh's paintings have gone for millions and millions of dollars. You have a Vincent van Gogh exhibition. You have a Vincent van Gogh show. People are going to come. They're going to buy the merchandise. They're going to buy the booklets. They're going to pay to go into that special exhibition. You're selling tickets. And when you have a show that's bringing in money, you're going to continue to do that. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't have a Georgia O'Keeffe exhibition and accomplish a lot of the same goals. But if you have Vincent van Gogh on this side of the street in this museum, and across the street in this other museum you got Georgia O'Keeffe, who's going to pull in more money? I don't know. I'm going to guess Vincent van Gogh, because that's just my speculation. Maybe unfair, but that's my speculation. I would want to go to both. I would pay to see both, especially if they were right across the street from each other at the same time. That would be actually very convenient. Why don't they do that? Anyway, the point is that you're going to go with the proven entity. And the collectors and the money behind that promotion of that artwork is why it is the way it is. Now, would an art museum make the same amount of money on the Mr.Burgher art exhibition? No. That's why the Museum of Modern Art isn't calling me on the phone saying, hey, can we have an exhibition of your artwork? Because they know they can spend all the money in the world putting my stuff on t-shirts and drag me in there and put my artwork on the walls. They're not going to make the same amount of money on the Mr.Burgher art exhibition as they are on the Vincent van Gogh art exhibition.
Unless you get your ass out there and do something crazy to get yourself.
Unless I start walking around with anteaters. In which case, who knows?
That's a terrible life.
But there again,
example.
If you have an option between the Mr.Burgher art exhibition and the Georgia O'Keeffe art exhibition, well, of course, Georgia O'Keeffe is going to outperform the Mr.Burgher art exhibition because she's a known, proven artist that people recognize and see. If it's just like, which is why you slowly build up to a point where you're recognized and you go from show to show, and it's a slow build to get to that level. And oftentimes it's artists that have been around for a long, long time that are proven. And historically, art has been a man's profession.
Well, and you see that in your videos.
Women have been on the outside of that. It's not really until Impressionism with Bertha Morisot and Mary Cassatt and others that we start to see that. There are anomalies. There are anomalies like Artemisia Gentileschi during the Baroque and on and on and on. There are anomalies to that, but largely it's a man's profession. It had been a man's profession. And so getting to the point where women like Georgia O'Keeffe and Frida Kahlo and Judy Chicago and the Guerrilla Girls and Barbara Kruger and Kiki Smith and on and on and on with these female artists that are important and big and known and recognized. And eventually, because of longevity, they'll get to the point where their artwork is out there and is known and is recognized as other artists of their time period. But it's a slow burn. It's not going to happen quickly.
Well, and as I was saying, like your video, like what's popular, that's a perfect example of that, because it seems like your most popular videos are ones that have, like, you expect certain ones to like take off and whatever, but it's usually like those artists that have, is that right? Like looking at when we look at your top.
Yeah, usually, and again, this month was kind of an anomaly because it has been Women's History Month this past month. And so my number one video this month, if you go to the top 11 playlist on my YouTube channel, number one is William de Kooning, followed by Sailor Jerry, Victor Vasserly, but then you start to get into Deborah Butterfield, which is a new video. There's one on Georgia O'Keeffe that has been viewed a lot. There's one on Barbara Kruger that's been watched a lot. The Guerrilla Girls has slowly been, and again, it just came out this week, but it's several people have been watching that video.
I do want you to know I was the first person that viewed that and liked that video.
Nice job. First viewer.
You're welcome.
First of hundreds. But
I was the first.
There you go.
Because I support you.
You must have woke up, because usually I drop those at 6 in the morning, our time. 6 a.m. Central Time, everything drops.
I was excited. I mean, I honestly was excited about watching the Guerrilla Girls. But I have mixed emotions about them, which I posted on there. And it's like, I love their mission in there, but I have a really hard time getting past those ugly gorilla masks, in all honesty. It makes me not want to watch them and follow them. It's just such a weird...
Well, the gorilla mask is scary. But the gorilla is a double entendre.
I know there's meaning behind it, and so I understand why which they can watch the video and learn more and whatever, but
anyway,
it's a good video, so go back and watch it.
They're out there, they're doing their thing and working toward their mission, and you know, I have a lot of respect for artists in general, not just the Guerrilla Girls, but artists in general who are out there making their artwork with a message behind it, with something that's not just a bouquet of flowers or a portrait of, you know, someone, but there's a message behind it, there's a meaning behind it, there's some underlying things, Salvador Dalí-esque, you know, these a million little things all kind of mushed together, you know. What the hell does that mean? Why is there a burning giraffe in the middle of this thing? Why is there a bunch of ants on a melting watch? Why is there, you know, why are you drawing our attention to these things? And with the Guerrilla Girls in particular, you know, it's to raise awareness and attention. I mean, theirs is a little bit more text-based. You know, we've talked about language in art, and you know how many artists are out there doing it. I mean, Jenny Holzer is the champion of truisms and language, but the Guerrilla Girls are very much in that little bubble of the art world.
Right.
So,
and
anyway.
What they're doing isn't out of any ill. It's all with a positive, like, what do I want to, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not.
They're not trying to be malicious or tear anyone down. They just want equal. They just want some equal playtime in the art sandbox, so to speak, which I don't think is unreasonable.
Right. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. So please go to Mr. Burgher's channel, hit like, share, and subscribe, and support us in any way you so choose. We're glad you are here. Anything you want to add in?
I'm done. I'm done with you for the day.
That's because I've done this closing like 15 times.
You piss off.